sure to get you over your hump day today. If you do not know, we have one of our all-time favorites in the building, and honestly, he brings the energy. I don't think there's anybody who can quite match me except for Seth. So welcome, 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 everybody. If you're just now getting here to Wholesaling One, drop your bags, sit down. We've got an amazing show for you today, and I want you to sound off in the chat for me. Let me know who's here in the building, what market you're working, and give Seth a big ol' hi. Welcome, Seth. I'm glad you're here.
Oh, what's up? I'm glad to be
What's
here,
going on, man? How you been?
man. Life is a blessing, man. I think we've done about 12 deals already just this year so far, and we're not just 3 months into it. So
That's
Who wants
awesome.
their first quarter to look like that? I mean, that is solid. 12 deals, and it's not even like the third month hasn't even started.
Impressive. What's your goal for the year?
100 deals, 100
100
deals.
deals.
We did 60 last year, so I have a minimum of 100. We want to double. So potentially 120, but a minimum of 100. And so far, just for me, we've done 12. All of RE is fun, joint ventures as well. We're on like 20. So I think it's very possible.
Still looking at
Very
that
exciting.
percentage on AC, if you guys are at 20 and 12 of them have come through you, I'm hearing acquisitions rock star. Hello.
Hey, I definitely didn't
Um,
start out like that. So
Now, anybody, if you guys don't know Seth, you can hop on to Jamil's YouTube after Wholesaling 101 and check out the To the Moon podcast, where Seth is the all-time all-star of the most recent one. Now, for anybody who hasn't caught that yet, can you give us just a little rundown on your wholesaling journey? When did you get started?
so I originally found out about wholesaling ironically on TikTok. I was just scrolling one day and came across it, and I had joined another mentorship that basically taught me how to utilize Facebook to get free leads through using Facebook groups and all that. To a guy named Paul McCombs. Rest in peace. He had passed in a car accident, but that's my guy.
Oh,
Um,
no.
so that when all that happened, they also thought they overtaught it because I stopped getting comments on my posts. Like I would even get spammer, like you're a spammer, blah 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 blah. But I wasn't even getting those. So then I went on my own, trying to do the direct to seller route, spending thousands of dollars in marketing costs for texting, calling, leads, skip tracing, and then I was down to like my last 10 grand. And I remember finally just watching Jamil after so many months at that point in time. And then, he preached $0 marketing. And I'm like I have two routes I can take. I can keep going down this route that I'm not making anything in, spending thousands of dollars, or I can put my last chunk of change into something where I have a chance to actually gain some traction on $0 marketing and also be a part of a community. And the cool part about Astro is when you get in, you're in it for life. Like you're an Astro student, you're an Astro student. My other mentorship wasn't like that, so it was sort of a different feel for that. And then when I came into the community here, I realized it was something different when I finally just started talking with people and seeing that everybody truly wanted you to succeed. They're not like the competition mindset, but the collaboration mindset, collaboration over competition, and just chipping away, chipping away. I was up in Michigan at the time. I had chose Texas as my market because I had went to one of Jamil's like golden ticket events, but they called it Nightmare on Deal Street because it was right before Halloween, and I met some really heavy hitters in the Dallas Fort Worth market, and I was like, screw it, like let's take a shot here. And I had to have privy at that point too because of Texas non-disclosure laws. So privy was like an essential tool that I had to have. I was putting in the work, not really gaining much traction there. And if I do look back, it's because I was sort of all over the place, spreading myself thin, doing agent outreach rather than on-market offers and trying to mix the two when I only had 3 hours a day to really work. So if I could go back, I would have told myself to focus on one strategy, not both. And
Mm.
I went to a mastermind that sort of changed everything, really getting in the room with those heavy hitters there. And then I got the chance to talk with my now business partners, Matthew and Remy, and we had chill out. We had a long conversation. I was on the phone with Matt, and I was just asking him acquisition questions like how to get better in my acquisitions, and they constantly kept seeing me show up to the calls, just putting on a smile because I also told myself you don't know who's watching these calls, and sure enough, they were watching, constantly seeing me showing up, putting in the work, chopping wood and carrying water, as Jamil calls it. And then he gave me the opportunity because I had talked with him like, man, dude, I just want to get out of Michigan. I want to get around the like-minded people, get up on that frequency rather than just sitting at home doing this all like a one-man show type of thing. And they gave me the chance to come live down in the office that we got subject to here. It's just a house we got subject to that we turned into an office. And
That's
Nice.
awesome.
now I'm here full time and been here since this ninth will be 6 months.
Ooh, that's amazing.
Congrats, man.
Yes, sir.
Amazing
Thank
I
story.
I love so many things that are a part of that because they're things that we talk about in Wholesaling 101 all the time, which is collaboration. That's a huge part of why we love the Astro family and why we encourage people to talk in our chat here at Wholesaling 101 because you need to find other players who, even on a bad day, are just willing to like pick you up and send you a love message. Like sometimes it's as
Yeah.
simple as that, and sometimes it's checking your numbers. But that kind of energy and that kind of family is something that is so prevalent, and it's one of our connections. Like I would consider you one of my all-time favorite bros, and like come for you for a hug, and that's because we sat together and we learned and we got better and we meditated together because Jamil's always going to make that happen. And even Benson was there, and I think that that kind of family. I just want anybody who is not yet in Astro, who's in this room, to know that this is an extension of that, that you are welcome in that. And of course, we want you in the family, but utilize this for that. Seth is here giving his time so that we can pick his brain. And I'd love to see some questions in the chat that go out direct to him. But that's such a huge part of it, is that collaboration. So thank you for pointing that out. Another thing that you teed me up for quite perfectly is that today we're going to be talking about Privy, and that it's so helpful and so useful in the amount of data that it can give you on the ACK side. So we're going to be jumping into the Jacksonville and surrounding area today, guys, and we're going to be going heavy on the ACK side. If you don't have Privy, I highly suggest you just take a little moment and you pop on over and you get yourself some Privy, because following along with us is going to make this so much easier and better. And then you're going to be able to take that with you into the rest of the week and the weekend. So we have got a discount code for you. It is DAMG. If you use the last name, one of my favorites, DAMG, and put that in the promo code section, you'll get 30% off the annual plan or 20% off your first month if you go that route. You want to take us away, Benson, and show off this beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
software?
Yeah, we won't spend too much on everything because there's so much that Privy does well. But when it comes to acquisition and listening to Seth's story, he was really about like market selection, like where would be a good place to go and do deals. And most of the time we look in our own backyard and there's some benefit to that, but there's not more benefit to looking in your own backyard than there is to just being in the right areas where the stuff you need to create a successful wholesale business is already present. So like the comps, is there demand for a deal that you can find? And the way you determine that is by tracking investment activity. There's fix and flippers, right? That are probably the most likely people you're going to be working with. But there's also landlords. So you want to make sure that you're really targeting areas that have high investment activity. And if one of those areas can be in these blue areas here where we have direct to MLS data, that even scales up the quality of the data. And that's one of the benefits that Seth was just talking about. He chose Texas, and Texas is a non-disclosure state. And in non-disclosure state, what that means is you're not going to see the final sold price of the sales comparables. You're not going to have the photos. You're not going to have all of the information that you need to make better decisions. And so Seth was astute enough to realize that he needed another level of quality of data, not just what you can get from Redfin or Zillow or PropStream or any of those really great platforms. You need to direct to MLS data. So that's whenever you see blue is where we have that data. Same data that agents and appraisers use, but even scaled up more because it's the raw data that comes from the MLS. And then when you click this button over here on the left, it says fix and flip. That's going to show you where the high investment activity areas are. So you want to try to like start the checkbox. Okay, a high investment activity area, check. That's one thing that I'm going to look at. Is it in an area that has direct to MLS? Check. Do I live there? That's the final check, right? That one is also a check, but it's based off of Seth's story. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can have success in any market as long as you're laying the proper foundation. And one of the areas that Seth likes is the Jacksonville market. So Jacksonville happens to be in Florida, and it is one of the hotter markets in the Florida and the whole state. And you can see that right here from this big blue circle. That is the indication of investment activity. And that's also right where we're looking to get the data to prove after repair value. So if we drill down here into this Jacksonville market, these clusters are going to break up into smaller clusters. And then we're going to be able to see which neighborhoods specifically have highest investment activity, because your goal is to try to find the unrenovated house or the distressed property in the same neighborhood that people are doing fix and flip, because you're going to need to use those comps. Those are the comps you want to be able to use to prove after repair value on the house that you just worked so hard to find. You don't want to work hard to find a lead out here in Picketttville. Like there's no one doing deals in Picketttville. So could you maybe get a deal done there? Yeah, but this is all like the long game. You're going to be building long-term relationships on disposition. You're going to be building um, JV partnerships potentially on acquisition. So you want to make sure you're building a good solid foundation. So you want to be in areas where you have these higher numbers. Right now, it seems like they're kind of all over, and that's what's good about Jacksonville is the investment activity is not so really laser focused. It's kind of spread out, and I'd love to hear Seth's perspective on that. What you see on the map here, does this line up with what you know about this market already?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. San Marco, right over there where you see the big 44, that is a very hot area.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, right there. And it's funny, ironically, we see a lot of high numbers in the top here because this little section, like above the I-10, right here, that's what we call Jacksganistan. That is
Mm.
where it's pretty rough out there. I actually walked a property right where the 71 is today, and I was greeted with some what's the word? I can't think. It starts with an S. Squatters. I had walked in and
Squatters.
there was some
In
squatters
the
in the house
house?
and was greeted by some pit bulls. That was a fun start to my Wednesday.
Wow. But there's a lot going on there. And sometimes the rougher neighborhoods are the ones that get gentrified first,
Yes.
right? That's just kind of the way the business is. That you have to have distressed properties, you have to have rundown properties for this business model to be sustainable. So you oftentimes will be in areas where there's, it's not the best neighborhood, and that's just part of the business. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, down here where the 90 is, do you know much about this area down here in Cedar Hill Estates?
Yeah, no, this is a great area. I actually see Normandy Manor. That's where I'm at right now. Oh, yep, I'm literally there right now. So it's a good like the after repair values can be in the 250s to 300. So it's like a good purchase price here in Jacksonville, working class neighborhoods, blue collar neighborhoods. So this when I actually see a property pop up in the 32210, I jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a property I'm gonna go walk as soon as I get off this call. That's like 6 minutes down the road from me.
Very nice. Okay.
I love this. And I just want to highlight something real quick for our extra newbies. There are two sides to this wholesaling business. There's the acquisitions and going to get the properties, and there's the dispositions, and that's selling the properties. And something Benson pointed out is that the acquisitions, which is getting the product, you have to have somebody on the dispositions buy side somewhere to sell said product. So Privy is automatically showing you where is it worth going after the hunt to get a product because there's already activity on the sales side. So that quickly you can come into Privy, find an area that's active to work in and be on the phone with an agent and be able to say, oh yeah, I like the Normandy Manor area. You know, if we're headed over towards the north of 71, you know, I'm definitely going to be bringing lower numbers, but bring me the zip code 32210 anytime. One, I just got all of that from Seth because he knows his market, but two, it's also right here on Privy with the data. So if anybody wants to know why I'm a total Privy nerd and why you should go get it with the promo code DAMG, that's pretty much laying it all out there for you.
Oh yeah. And with just like two things, based off of what you see on the screen and based off of Seth's intel, like local market intel, you suddenly sounded like an expert. Like that makes acquisition a lot easier.
Yep. And I was in the Jacksonville market for a little bit, but now for the most part, I just sometimes get ones and guess who I hand them to? I hand them to Seth because he knows that area much better than I do. So he can kind of twist the dial to get right to the right number. And I had to stumble step in Jacksonville. You know why? Because there is those weird neighborhoods that have weird squatters. And if you don't know where those are, the 32206s or 32209s, then you're going to find yourself at, unfortunately, the wrong buy number. And there's nothing worse than having to go back to an agent and retrade that down.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, it reminds me there was a property we got under contract in 32208. All the numbers pointed to it being 290, and we got it under for like 190. And just because of the area, people weren't biting. It's like,
So what was it that was pointing to 290? Like what data was that you were using to justify 290 if it wasn't the comps?
so there was so it was the biggest house in the neighborhood. That's also a
Mhm.
thing to take into consideration. And there was only two comps that had showed a 290, but they did sell a little bit early in the year last year. And it
Mm,
was just in the neighborhood. It was near a school that is actually well known for getting shot up. So that
mm.
like the closest we could get was a buyer at 170, 180, but the seller couldn't move down anymore because his mortgage was 185. So then I tried to pitch sub two, but they didn't want to hear it, and I did my damnedest to try to get it done.
Yeah. Did they eventually sell that property retail?
Nope, it's off the market now.
Wow.
It's a terrible situation, man. I won't get into it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, now that we know we're in the right area, what would be your process to move from kind of market research to starting to think about acquisition?
So the biggest thing is checking those big bubbles, like where's the big bubbles going on,
Hmm.
and we can already see right here. It looks like Sweetwater, right under Normandy Manor, Hyde Park. There's a lot of sales going on, so I like to somewhat stay around here. And the cool thing about Privy is I have it send me emails every day, so I've already saved all my searches, man. That it can just email me. I can look at it. If I haven't called on it yet, I'm gonna call on it. So that's the really cool thing I like about Privy is that it can just email me every day without me having to go hunting, so to speak, because I wake up and there's already an email in my inbox from you guys giving me new leads.
Yeah, kind of pre-vetted leads, right?
Exactly.
They've already been comped out. And this is what I'll caution people against. A lot of times when we're looking at acquisition, we try to analyze everything that people send us because we don't have enough leads.
Right.
So we end up analyzing deals that aren't in these hot areas because we're just not being focused enough. And leads are hard to come by. So we think that every single thing we can get our hands on is valuable. And you can spend all day trying to prove that a deal out in, whatever BFE and in some rural area is going to be a deal. And you'll spend days trying to comp it out. You'll send it around, you'll try to get help. And then you just wasted all that time. But if you had just had the foresight to say, you know what, I don't look at houses in that zip code, it'll save you so much time. So be focused on your leads. Don't analyze everything that comes across your desk. Know which zip codes are your top targets and don't evaluate anything outside that. It'll save you a bunch of time.
No facts on that. When I build my list and let's say I have a short day, like I got some things I gotta get to, gotta go walk some properties. I'll at least make sure to hit those hot zip codes. Like if I see a property's in 10, 1-1, 1-8. I'm like, I'm gonna call this one first before I call the 09s, the 06s, and then I'll hit those the
Mhm.
next day.
Oh, I love
It
that. So
helps
you
you
just
prioritize.
prioritize it.
Exactly, because I know where buyers are buying. I know that, hey, if I can get this property, it's gonna fly off the shelf. Buyers will tend to pay for more because it's in a better area.
And that's, I mean, time is money. This is something I feel like I've just started recently doing to the way that I keep track of properties, which changed for me within the last week. My business partner went in and he changed everything. And now every morning it prioritizes my offers out just based off of like market and area. And it's blowing my mind because this morning I got in and I hit like 4 offers in 30 minutes. And I
Ooh.
was so proud of myself. But it is that like, saving time and knowing the right data that can help you focus and hone in, especially if you're out there with a W-2 and you're working on getting into this business with your first deal. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to prioritize and filter out your stuff as fast as possible. I'm curious, Benson, would you be willing to show everybody how to get a list sent to them via email like Seth is talking about?
Ooh.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to point out too is Pavin in the chat brought up a really good question that is often asked, which is, does Privy only have MLS data? And that answer is no. We have nationwide public record, county record data, off-market leads. That's kind of standard in the industry. What makes us different is we add the MLS data on top of that, so you can get more accurate comping and more up-to-date information. So if you want to pull lists, you can pull lists from this area, and you would just change the filter, and you could come down here and you could add in, pre-foreclosures or vacancies or tired landlords or zombie property. So we actually give you the ability to export up to 10,000 leads per month for no additional charge, just with the standard subscription. So if that is something you're into, then we do have that ability. And we also have the ability, and this is something we talked about last week, Corianne, is in lists, you can upload lists that you've sourced elsewhere into Privy, and Privy will analyze all of those properties for you, build a comparative market analysis, pull comps, and it will give you the current status, whether it's on market, off market, if it's in foreclosure, just by uploading it right here into this button. So that's really, really powerful. Now, as far
I didn't
as
know
go ahead
about the
and
upload. Did you, Seth? Because it kind of
No,
blew my
this is
mind
new
last.
to me.
You look a little mind boggled like I was last week. Where I'm like, wait, what can I do with this?
yeah,
There's
the
definitely creative ways.
I taught you something. Now my day is complete, Seth. Um, so
Now, somebody off of YouTube, I want to say Jawan, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, had asked that they're having a hard time pulling off market on Privy. Will you kind of clarify that there's not really a way to just go direct off market, right?
oh yeah, right here. You just go to the filter, and then you can pull anything that is sold is off market.
There you go.
If you want on market properties, you change it to active, pending or under contract. A lot of people go after pending and under contracts too, because those have a 20% chance of falling out of contract in
Hmm.
in most markets. But if you want off market, say foreclosures, then you would use the sold filter, including one of these tabs. Or if you want an off market property that's an absentee owner and vacant, then there's two levels of motivation there. So you can
Hmm.
stack lists
And
here just as you would with like another platform out there, except for you can analyze those properties with the MLS data. That's where it gets really sort of like leveled up. So when you
And one
when
of
you
the
pull
things I
that
think they
list,
might be running into, and I always forget this on the sold side, is that for example, if you're going after things that you could purchase now that might be off market, you would want your date range to be back at least 5 years. But you already have the button that's owned 20 plus years. So
yeah,
if
so
you're
you can
if you're
change
on the
that
hunt for that.
for sure. If you did timeline past 12 months and you did sold and vacant, it sorts it automatically. Well, actually not automatically, but you can change it based off a sold date. So the property that sold yesterday would be on the top of the list. So you're right. If you do want to go in and try to find properties that are off market that are likely to sell, then you're going to want to change that date range back. So you might
Hmm.
say, okay, let's go back 5 years, like you said. So we go back to 2019. right? And then within the last 5 years, that person who owns that property and bought it back in March of 2019 would be more likely to sell than somebody who bought it last year, right? I think that's the
And
point you're
that
making.
absolutely. And the average Joe probably sells every 5 to 7 years or moves into a new home. But I can promise you that if somebody's owned a property for 20 plus years, it's probably more on the distressed side of things. They've lived in that sucker. They've, had a couple tenants in, something like that. And you've got a high chance of potentially running across somebody that's looking to sell. Same with, I mean, all of these, they're really buttons to click that Benson is bringing to the table to help you get there as fast as possible.
Yeah. And then when you pull that list, it
Mhm.
is exported with a link to the comparative market analysis. So like this property right here, it's currently off market. And if this happened to be on your list, then you can come down and there'll be a link. You can click and it'll actually, it shows you the comparables. It shows you all of the current under contracts, pending, active comparables, as well as the rental comps. So if you are working with landlords, and they're part of your buyers list, then you're going to want to figure out if this thing's going to help them cash flow or not. And that's what the rental data will help you do. So
And
back to
you,
Corian's question,
hmm,
which is how to create lists and have those get sent to you. There, the first part of it was, okay, there's off-market lists, and I showed you how to do that. And if you want to create on-market, we've actually created an easy button for you right here. And so this one was find similar active deals. So if you click find similar active deals, that is going in and it's running comps on all the properties that are for sale in this area right now. And it's going to show us ones that are looking like they'll be lower than 75% of the ARV. That's what the default filter is. Now, based off of what you know about this market, Seth, where would you want to be percentage of ARV wise for it to be a viable deal? Understanding that you may want to actually negotiate a lower price, right? What percentage
I'd
would you
say,
choose?
yeah, around the 65. That's like top of the moon.
Okay. So if you found something at 68% and you could negotiate down 3 or 4% more, would you not want to see that or would you want to see it?
Oh yeah, 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 most definitely. I mean, just to be able to see everything, I think 70 would even be a good number.
70 is a good number.
Yeah, yeah, just
Yeah.
so we can see everything.
Yeah. And that's a good point to make, you guys. When you're setting your filter, realize that when we find these properties, we're basing it off of what the asking price is. So if it's at an asking price and maybe we find it at 68% and you don't have any buyers that will buy that high, then you just know that if it's going to be viable for you and your buyers, that you need to negotiate down 3 or 4% to give you
Hmm.
some room for it to be a deal, but also to create room for your assignment fee.
mm.
What about the
I
purchase
mean, that
price?
is what we do. That's what we bring to the table as wholesalers is that we negotiate those things down so that all our flipping pals out there who are our buyers that we're placing with don't have to spend their time doing that. So go out there and be that resource that is digging those negotiations and getting 3% off or 4% off, whatever you need.
So the purchase prices in this area between 2 and 300,000. Do you have like a ceiling you want to put in here?
I mean, usually I don't put a ceiling. I like to look at everything, my man, just like we did with the ARV percentage there, because
Okay.
well, like we have some buyers that want to be under 200. We have some buyers that look up to 1 million, and there's some pockets in here in the 32210 where they can get up to 400,000. Like there was one right down the street. ARV was 400 grand, and we almost got it. We were this far off, but
Okay.
so that's why I don't really put a cap there, and pretty much price per square foot would leave that full. Anything under 700 square feet though, buyers tend to not really want to look at those. So like
Okay.
anything 700 square feet and up, that's what we're looking for.
All right. Yeah. So you can put that in here. Your build is a market.
It's the little slide thing right next to you got
Why
purchase
can't I
price,
see
price
it?
per square
Oh,
foot,
thank
square
you.
footage.
Yeah. So let's go 700 plus.
There we go.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and run this search. And this is going to show us what's available today, you guys. But just like Corey Ann pointed out, um, there might be something that pops up tomorrow that maybe if we're doing our real 9 to 5 job, or we're, traveling, or we're just doing the family gig, you want to just get an alert. So I would come back into the filter and I come down and I'm going to click this button right here that says save search right here, bottom left-hand corner. It is turn gray. And then I'm going to give this the search, and I'm going to call this, I don't know, West Jack steals 70% or less than 70%. Okay. And then you can choose the frequency to come over as often as you're looking or you want to look, but up to every hour. So we'll go ahead and we'll save this, and that will trigger email alerts to show up in your inbox. So, that way, if you're out in the field, you can open them up on your phone. We've got a mobile optimized version of Privy. You can just pop them right on your phone, and it has a full CMA there, so you can analyze those properties and determine, oh, maybe I want to go driving around the neighborhood. Check it out.
Wait, you got an app now? What?
It's not a native app like you would get from the App Store, but it's a
Okay.
mobile version of it. So, it never any with Privy right here, if I just make this small,
Okay.
see how
Is it still get privy now? Like
it's
just
still
on
the
the
same
okay.
the same URL. You just log in on your phone, and it just looks exactly like an app. It just
Wow.
changes right on the phone. So
Learn something new every week. That's why I keep showing up to Wholesaling 101. No, it's also because I love y'all. Man, I take something every time. And that's so useful for anybody that, yeah, does have a W-2, has something going on in their life. All you do is set that filter once for your main area, and you just keep checking those emails and see what pours through. And Privy is spoon feeding you those opportunities.
so here's the one that popped at the top of the list. It's just right over here. It pops up in this little card format. It would show up in our email inbox. So we just click the link, and then it'll open the CMA right on your computer or on your device. If you like it, you just come up here and you can just add it to your favorites, or you can put it into a list. Maybe you got a list that you create that's just for Jacksonville deals, or you could share it. So you can just click share. It creates this email template. You just put the email address of the person you want to send it to, and it'll send it to them, and then they can open it up on their device, and they don't have to be a Privy user, and it's all fully interactive, just like it is on your computer. It's just not editable. So you guys being Privy users can come in and you can edit like the comp criteria. You can change the comp zone. You can do a lot of things here, but you can see that, this property right here. Let's look at the photos a little bit just to see what this thing's looking like. So it's like a big ranch style home, built in 1952, medium sized lot, nothing too exciting, but it's got some decent curb appeal. And then here's the interior. It looks like they did a renovation some years back, tile, formica, mismatched appliances. So there's a lot of value here that a fix and flipper could do,
Hmm.
or a landlord could come in and spend very little money on this thing, getting it rental grade ready. You might be able to rent this out with like $500.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious in just the few things you've seen, Seth, does this stand out as something you would call on?
So that's a great question. I was actually on one of our calls, and pretty much what I look for when I'm looking at, hey, am I going to call this or am I going to pass on it? And the one question I ask, can I add value? If it's yes, I'm calling it.
Mm.
Because you don't know what the motivation is until you call.
Yeah, it's true.
So no,
It's true.
yeah, I would call and pitch it towards like, hey, I'm looking at this as a rental, and they might be able to tell you, well, it was a rental, and it's like, well, let's go.
Yeah. Can we hear you on the phone?
Let's do it.
I need some Seth energy in my life.
Yes.
I'll,
So,
I'll,
Corian, can you look up the agent?
I feel like I called this guy
Yes.
before.
What's the
Alfonso
agent's name?
Duran. Alfonso Duran.
It's definitely a name to remember.
Yep, I've called this guy before. I already got his
He's in
info.
your phone?
Yep.
Guys, you got to know your market. It's so
I
great.
will say it's very hard for you to find a property I haven't called on.
That's why we had to pull one that's only a day on the market. We're like, hopefully you didn't have time to call this one yet today.
Okay, let me call this guy. If I remember correctly, he's a little standoffish, so it might be a little one of those conversations where it might be a little hard to get some answers from him, but hey, let's go.
That's okay.
Yeah, he doesn't give any info about the property and the description because that's also something I'll read. I hate being redundant, like asking questions that they've already put into the listing. So I always just look really quick to see if I see anything about
Mm.
roof, HVAC, anything of that jazz. And I can even scroll down, see if it used to be a rental, because sometimes you'll see rental rate in there. So it gives me a little bit more info going into the call.
Love it.
So let me
It makes
pull it
you
up here.
sound so much smarter too. If you ask a question that's in like the first two sentences of the description, they're like, you haven't spent any time. Why should I?
Exactly. Exactly. All right. I got the listing pulled up here. Let's give it a call. Hopefully you guys can hear it. I'm gonna hold it as close as I can to my computer here.
You got somebody
Okay.
calling, you got somebody comping. This is great, guys.
Can you hear it?
I don't hear anything yet, but
Oh, damn. It's ringing. You guys don't hear that? 496208991. Hey Alfonso, my name is Seth. I was given a call on your listing over here on Water Oak Lane. I was interested in placing an offer. If you could, please give me a call back whenever you get a chance. My number is 904-506-1535. Thank you very much. Look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye-bye. And I'll also shoot him a text because a lot of people don't listen to that. And also, if any of you guys try to call that number, it's just my CRM. So by all means, try.
it's just your CRM.
Oh, he
They're gonna
said,
get added to
please
somebody's
text me.
funnel.
So he responded back saying, please text me. So I'm gonna just carry the conversation, basically say exactly what I just said on the voicemail.
Perfect. While you're working on that, Benson, what are you seeing comps wise? Is this listed at ARV?
Um, no, it's not. Well, it depends on what we're looking at here. I actually expanded the comps to include another 5% tolerance on the square foot. So the default square foot tolerance that Privy uses is 15%. And then I changed it up to 20 because I didn't see a ton of data in here that were true comparables. So I broadened it a little bit, and it brought in a couple more comparables that help a lot with this ARV. So these two right here. So this one was just fix and flipped. So it's within 20% of the square foot tolerance, and that one went for 647, and it's a flip. And we know it's a flip because there's two sales. They bought it for 365, they sold it for 647. And if we click the little information icon here over here on the left, it's going to show us the property, and we can see the house, right? So this even looks more modest than the one we were looking at. It's on the same side of that road that went through that little peninsula. I don't know how important that is in this neck of the woods because some of those peninsulas are kind of small, but their roads do need to pass through there. And this one went for 646.
Ortega's a good area. That Ortega, the place it's in, very hot area.
Yeah. So this went for 646. This one right here also sold for 625. And then we can open that one up. It doesn't have the before and after, which means that the sale prior to that one was longer than 18 months back. But we can look at that house on the interior to see what it looks like. And it looks like, that this one had been updated at some point, but it's an older update. And I mean, this is like classic 90s. But the ARV, there's two really good comps with properties that are good. That's between 625 and 647. In the right over here on the left, this is where it shows us the percentage. So without negotiating a lower price, which we're likely going to want to do, this house is already between 60 and 62% of the after repair value. The only thing I would make an adjustment for is that ours is a 3-2 and both of these are 4 3s. That's the main thing you're going to have to think about adjusting if you can't fit another bedroom or bathroom into this
Mm.
place.
Yeah, I can see that. If you were to offer on this set, do you think a 360 would be low enough from list to sell? Or would you want to
I mean,
sell at a 360?
it's one day on the market. Like if the numbers make sense, I mean, hell, I remember one property in Orange Park we locked up at list price. We haven't sold anything over list price yet, but
Mm.
that's what we renegotiate for. We get a buyer in there, and then
Hmm.
even if we sell it for what we got it, hey, at least we can execute on the deal, keep the relationship strong, and then just go walk the property, find reasons that weren't disclosed, like, hey, the wiring, plumbing, roof, HVAC, like hitting all those major components and then just
Hmm.
expressing it to the realtor. And one thing I like to do, and I've heard John Galan say this a lot, is try to do that, like try to renegotiate with it, like if you have a 5 day inspection period, try to do it on day 2 or 3, because when you also tell them like, hey, I've done my inspection period, I've done my due diligence, we can end inspection period today. I just need it at this number. This is a for sure close. Like we can for sure close on this property. My earnest money becomes non-refundable. And you can even hit them with like, hey, I'll even put in another 5 grand, which we charge the buyers 5 grand earnest money. So when you say all those things, it's really like you're hitting all the pain points that they want to hear. So
Hmm.
it gives them more motivation to go in there and make it happen.
I love that one. That's actually one of my all-time favorites is that you can end the inspection period if you give it to me at this number instead. One thing that does require is that you actually have the buyer at that number ready to deposit earnest money. So just a reminder to anybody out there that wants to use that, don't use that until you do have the buyer on the line, which is always what you want to have before you retrade anyway. It's much more ideal.
Hmm. So
Can
this
we
is one
please
that's
find another one to put
potentially
him on the phone?
viable. Yeah, this one's potentially viable. Hopefully that guy calls you back.
He's texting me back and forth. He just hit me with, hey, the seller's not considering anything that's not asking price. And I'm like, okay. Like I'm still gonna work my magic. I'm still gonna pry it a little bit. Like the property I'm gonna go walk afterwards. She hit me with the same thing. I'm not looking at investors, blah blah blah. But I started hitting those
Right.
big points, and now
Mhm.
she's gonna let me go see it. So
How do you
Interesting. Okay.
directly respond to, like, if a text is like, we won't take anything lower than list, what's the next text you send?
they say they won't take anything lower than list. I'll hit them with like, hey man, I haven't ran my numbers yet. I was just scrolling through Zillow, scrolling through what's on the market, came across your listing and wanted to give you a call to introduce myself, get some more like info on the property so I can make you an educated offer rather than just shooting from the hip. Like I don't just say okay, because they're trying to put a wall up, and if you keep breaking through it, they're most likely going to keep a conversation going with you because they're going to take you seriously.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that response. That's so helpful. Y'all, if you don't have your notepads out, I hope you wrote that one down. It's going to be so useful in your communication. Luckily, this will be on Jamil Damji's YouTube page after we're done with this live here. So you can always go back for the replay and write it down then if you haven't. Just a reminder, we are in Privy, and even myself as an agent and a wholesaler, this is where I pull my comps. This is the first place I go when I have an address, and I highly suggest you get Privy. We also have a promo code. If you like what you're seeing here today and you use the promo code DAMJI, that'll get you 30% off the annual or 20% off the first month. What do we have here? This one's pretty clean.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it has like some. You could tell they've done some stuff to it, but it looks like they just kind of half-assed it. Honestly, like they got these wood panels up. They got older doors. This crappy carpet. Like they tried to do something here. This surround. Would this be something you would even waste any time with, Seth?
So I'm
Because
looking
when
at, I just pulled it up myself, and like first look at it, man. I mean, it's like, where can I add some value here? First off, it does look like it's a manufactured home. So those
Mhm.
particular to Jacksonville, they're a little harder to find some buyers for unless we're out in like Middleburg
Mm,
or something like that. And then just looking at why or what they've done to it, and it's sort of like what you're seeing with the wood paneling there. That's sort of common for mobile homes is to have that wood paneling. But honestly, if I'm just being totally upfront, I honestly would probably pass on this one.
okay.
Just looking at the photos before I even looked at the numbers, but I do see it's pretty verified. So
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's
flips in the
awesome.
area. That's the thing that we use to do the privy preferred is that we want comps that were flipped, and there's a bunch of them in the area. So we'll pass on that one. Let's see what else we can find.
Yeah, it looks like this one was actually a flip. They bought it last month for 80 grand.
And they just decided to get in and out, huh?
Well, they bought it for 80 grand. Now they relisted it for 162 or 167. So they literally flipped it within a month.
And I wonder if it has those kind of like lower flip qualities specifically because it's in a manufactured. So they would just want it in and out
Exactly.
quickly.
I'm
So
right
we,
here. Yep.
yeah, definitely a flipping of the pig.
Yeah, this is another one that's kind of been like semi flipped, but there's still some room on these things. Like this one's not manufactured, but it does have comps that were flipped. So this one's for sale for 280, but there's look at some of these prices in the area. What would cause that? That's just so interesting. This one's 280
Mm.
and it's a 3.2. This is the one for 510.
I'm curious here. This is a little tip too, because the 32205 is the historic district, which is, and you can see the price, you can see the year builds there, which really proves it. So a little trick to figure out if you're truly in a historic district, go onto Google Maps, go to a street view, and then go to an
Mhm.
interlocking corner here. And if you see the if you see the street signs, if they're green, it's not historic district. But if they're brown, it's historic district.
Ah, okay.
And I just
So-
went to the street view here, and it's not they got the green sign, so it's not historic. But then you
Mm.
need to make sure the comps you use aren't historic. That happened to us one time. We thought a property was really worth this, and it was right on the line of where historic started. So all the comps we used were historic, which drastically changed the price. Yep, exactly. That's exactly what I did right there. Yep. So if those signs were brown, it were to tell you you're in a historic district.
that's a that's a great tip. That's like a pro
That's
tip,
knowing your
man.
market.
Yeah.
Oof. Guys, if you're ever curious why Corianne only focuses in Tampa and Orlando and passes her Jacksonville leads to people that know Jacksonville, it's because I don't know that if the corner sign is brown, that it's in a historic district. Those little things are the
Oh
things that
yeah.
you learn when you're focused and stay within one market. So,
hmm
ooh, that was a hot tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we
well,
learned the hard way. So
yep. Lesson learned, right? Um,
Mhm.
I want to show you guys right in this little screen right here. There's all these different views. So there's the photo view, which is where we start. Right here is the map view that shows the just from this scale here, and then we have the street view. So we can do what we just did. You can drive around the neighborhood and check out what the neighborhood looks like. And then we got the aerial view with the little helicopter, and then that will show you the satellite view, and then you can kind of see where the house is in relation to the ocean or maybe like an industrial area or open space like this. So all those views are here for you.
that's badass. I love that.
So Seth, is this something you would call on, or is this something that it, maybe the comps are in historic areas? Is that what you're thinking?
So, I mean, it's sort of on the cusp here. I'm not 100% sure until we really dive into it. But just looking at it, it looks like it's in rental condition. The bathroom, like I try to look at all the photos here, just like, hey, where can I add value? And I see that they've redone the cabinets. They got new cabinet hardware. And then the bathroom, they've really gone like above and beyond to renovate this. So honestly, I feel like this is going to be someone that's flipped the property,
Okay.
and I don't really chase after flipped properties per se, but they've been trying to sell it for some time now. They actually just relisted it.
All right,
Oh,
let's check at
interesting.
another one.
Yeah, they bought
This
at the end
one
of last year. Yeah, I called on this one. Yeah.
you did.
Oh yeah, it's a piece of garbage. I'll tell you that right now.
Have you been inside of it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I went and walked it with a girl named Carmen, and the photos do not do this thing justice. That's why
Mm.
it's still sitting.
Were you and Carmen on a date? Was this like a first date?
This is actually the first time I met her in person, but Matthew
Oh,
had met her before, and where we're in right now, that little step down there, it used to be an enclosed carport, and that's sort of the issue right there. Is they're calling that a fourth bedroom, but
oh, that's a
there's no
nightmare.
window, there's no closet, there's a front door leading right outside, so that right there. Yeah, and all the windows are just dilapidated. Like it's a the pic. They did a really good job on the photos.
Photos
Really good job.
lie, right? Isn't that like the rule? Like photos will lie.
100%, man. And I can
So
pull you. I thought the ARV on this was around the 220 range. And
yeah,
they're pretty close for because it also it has galvanized piping, it has cloth wiring in it. So that right there, they're not going to pass inspection. So that's why I made my initial offer. I'm not worried about it going anywhere. I'm going to follow up with it because no FHA or VA buyer is going to be able to buy this.
Mm.
do you
Let's
mind sharing
explain this.
what you offered?
Yeah. Da, da, da,
Sorry, Corian.
No,
da.
this is important. We want to know the digits.
135.
135. So $50,000 price reduction. I mean,
And
I've seen a lot of people do a lot deeper than that and with a better house.
Agreed. They're just really gun ho on the price. This is a tired landlord. It's been a rental for years, and he hasn't done anything to the property, and I mean nothing to the property. And now he's just trying to cash out, but it's a little unrealistic when you haven't done anything. Like I think it even needs an HVAC. Let me see here. Yep, I counted for everything: HVAC, roof, flooring, paint, the whole nine
Wow.
yards on this thing.
sounds
So you
like
went
they're
in and
lucky to get a 135.
yeah.
Honestly.
Like, take it and run.
Honestly,
Oh, okay.
Seth, are you
Will you
making written
explain?
offers or are you doing verbal offers or a combination?
combination of both. So what I like to do is I'll definitely send them, my letter of intent and proof of funds. But if it's like if it's in a really good area, like this one, for instance, I'll jump on the phone with them as soon as I send it, be like, hey, you see it? And if they did, I try to walk them through it, like understand how I got to this number. I didn't just pull it out of thin air and really help them understand what I'm looking from. Like, because a lot of agents hit me with, like, oh, that's a low ball offer. And it's like, is it truly, really? Like, look at this property that just sold. Look at how nice it is. To get this property up to that condition, we got to match it. It's not just going to
Mhm.
happen out of thin air. Yes, you might get lucky and get a do-it-yourselfer that wants to live in it and fix it up over time, but like, how long are you guys going to wait for that to happen?
Mm.
And I just say, let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. Let's go. Let's go.
Newbies out there. This is a difference between who gets the contract and who doesn't. And that is in the first call on the offer versus, hey, a text that says, I emailed you an offer. The difference is in this one phone call, and he just laid out for you exactly what that sounds like. It's like, hey, here's the nicest comp. This is where I want to take it. Look at how much work they had to do to put into this. That's going to cost me this much and take that much time. I also have to make a profit. Believe it or not, I am just not out here to lose money on this particular kind of venture. So here's my number. And all of a sudden, those wheels start clicking, 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 clicking for that agent. And they come back to you to ask questions if they keep getting offers that are like that. And the conversation just continues to unfold and puts you at the top of that list. So
Uh-huh.
yummy. That was so good.
Yeah, the
I
only way they're going to get this is if they get a buy and hold investor that never sells it. because the additions, the plumbing, the electrical, like it can be a
Mhm.
rental. I mean, it's been a rental, but
Mhm.
for us to even come close to your price, a flip makes more sense.
Right. So
And
I
will
like
you
that. So
explain
you
for,
were, go ahead, Corian.
I was gonna say, Tanya in the chat is asking, well, you're not actually looking to fix and flip it, you're looking to wholesale it, right?
Correct.
Can you kind of explain that you still think like a fix and flipper because of that?
Yeah, yeah, because I have to think about it's like who's your buyer? And a lot of like a majority of our buyers are fix and flippers. So I have to put myself in their shoes. What are they going to think like? And of course, I with how competitive Jacksonville is, we can't just try to make 20, 30,000 on every single wholesale. So we try to really dial in on our numbers and give literally put our best foot forward because there was a property we lost out on closing costs, like a few $100 we lost out on the contract. That's how
Mhm.
competitive this market is. And it was such a good deal too. I was mad about that one.
Yeah, the value that you add to your buyers, to your clientele, is the fact that you're taking the time to think like them and then go negotiate for them. And hence why you get to make the spread between the two numbers. But of course, you've got to know what that number is that they're going to even want it at. And that's a part of the market research that we're doing here in Privy is we can see where buyers are buying and what they want. And that's why if you don't have Privy, we always so highly suggest you go snag it so that you can know your market, know what the buyers want, and then go hunt it down. Just a reminder, we've got a promo code for you. If today is the day to finally join Privy, and that is DAMG. If you use it, that'll give you 30% off the annual plan or 20% off the first month. There's one more question from Ben Power that I think is pretty good. And we got to pick your brain on this last one. But he's asking if you're focused on about 25 offers a day, what are the tasks that you spend most of your time on?
Okay, so he saw my post in the Facebook group the other day. So, so I will say 25 offers is rare. On 20, I made 25 offers because a lot of I went through our CRM and I figured out there was a lot of properties I wasn't following up with. So I called them all, and even if they didn't answer, sent them all. Like it was pretty much I've already comped it. I did take another look at it, but it was pretty easy to do. But how my day is structured per se is first thing, build my list, look at the email Privy sent me, just try to look at anything I can add value to. Call them. I try to call at least 15 a day. I call them. Once I get info, I'll call them twice. If they don't answer, I'll send a text. And then cool thing about Jacksonville is I can really just look at photos, look at comps, and even pull some permits to really look at what's really what we're really dealing with here. And then I will go if they don't call me back by the time I've comped in, I'm ready to send the offer. I will just Google their name, Jacksonville, Florida Realtor, find their email, and then shoot them over my letter of intent and proof of funds. And I'll even shoot them a text, like because I wasn't able to get a hold of them. I'll even shoot them a text. Hey, I wasn't able to get a hold of you, but I sent you an email. Please let me know if you received it. And then if they respond, I'll call them because
Mm,
a lot of people respond to text, but I don't want to bombard this guy since he hasn't answered two of my calls or my first text. So then if he answers I send you an offer text or responds to my email, because some people will do that, I'll call them.
mm,
And then I'll do that about later in the day. That's usually the last thing I do is send offers, to be totally honest. And then I'll try to get out of the house, go for a walk or something. And then I'll just, when I have my phone email connected to my phone, so I'll sit there and I'll be texting him back or calling him through my phone. If not, I'll be hitting him the first thing the next morning. Hey, did you get it? If they didn't respond, and if they did respond, like, hey, when can I expect an answer? Just dog on a bone mentality.
mm. Yes. Thank you for sharing not only what your whole day looks like, but also reminding us that it needs a walk every now and then in the afternoon, and that you can wait for your responses, especially once you've hit your push button and there's balance in everything. Um, Seth, it was so nice to have you here. I honestly wish I could go a whole nother hour and just let's hunt a deal down together because your
I'd love
energy
to.
is infectious and it's so much fun. Guys, if you enjoyed having Seth here, we need to know in the comments. Like, please drop a little, we love you, Seth! Especially if you're as excited and loved this as much as I did. And then before we get out of here, I just want to remind you all that Squad Up Summit is right around the corner. It is next month. And like I said earlier in this call, like Seth and I have sat next to each other, hugged each other, been in that energy. We even had some like amazing Brazilian steakhouse together. And that kind of energy of getting to people like as cool as Seth and sitting next to him and being in a room like that, y'all, you need that. You want that. If you've never
Mhm.
had that before, it's a totally new experience. And we want to see you at Squad Up Summit. Seth, are you going to be there?
So we're doing a divide and conquer here with my team here. My partner Remy, he's on the team. He will be there for sure. Get with him, Remy Rial. He'll be in the rooms. He'll be getting loud per se. But if you connect with him, you'll be connecting with me. I'm still on the fence if I can make the window there. But we're just trying to divide and conquer because we're a three-man team here and trying to make sure we hit everything, local events right a few hours away. So we're just trying to divide and conquer per se.
I love that. And honestly, you get
Awesome.
Remy, you get Matt, you get Seth, you're getting the same dog on the bone energy. The whole team
Good.
brings it. So I'm sure Remy will be giving out the hugs in your honor if you don't make it, but it would be a nice surprise if you do. And if anybody wants to work with you in the Jacksonville area, if they find something in that hot 32210,
Oof,
where should they hit you up?
oof. Well, you can get at me on any socials. I'm pretty much all over the place. My Instagram handle is the self-made investor. You can hit me up on Facebook, Seth Pettit, and then you can even hit me up on my number. Heck, I had a call right before we jumped on here with a guy. I just looked through. He's buying a house FHA, and I looked through his whole contract. Uh,
That's
my number
amazing.
is 231-620-9233.
Say it
Thank you,
again,
Seth.
please,
You're
Seth.
amazing.
231-620-9233.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Seth. Thank you, Benson, for such a cool software. It gets us through the day. It
Yes,
really does. And always running us through how to use it better and better. Keep finding new things.
my pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Seth, for taking the time and teaching us some cool things and getting us inspired. And Corianne, awesome work as usual. And Natasha, thanks for pulling everything together and keeping us all on track. We appreciate you too.
Let's
In
go.
the background, doing the hard work.